Reality itself is not a size. Taken from the ALETHEON, the divine avataric self-revelation of his divine presence, Avatar Adidal Samraj, Volume 1, page 245, Part 1. In the great tradition of humankind, much has been communicated about what is called spirit, or the spiritual, as that which pervades all and which is ultimately associated with the breath. All traditional teachings relative to spirit, or Shakti, have been given in the context of the developmental or psychophysically bound stages of life, characteristically in the context of the fifth stage of life and also the fourth stage of life as the stage that is approaching the fifth stage of life. Because the traditional teachings relative to spirit are given in the context of the psychophysically bound stages of life, or the stages of life which are based on egoic self-identification with the body-mind complex, and with the search to transcend the body-mind complex, those teachings are also bound to a cosmic or conditional view of reality. Therefore, the spiritual divine is traditionally understood in terms of cosmic space, conceived to be an immensity of a shapeless size that is filled with the spiritual divine. Such is the fundamental spatial metaphor by which spirit is traditionally understood in the great tradition of humankind. The spiritual divine is traditionally understood on the basis of the presumption of egoic self-identification with the body-mind complex within the space-time cosmos, or the conditionally apparent or evident to point of view universe. That presumption is a limitation. That presumption is the basis for a search toward a goal, and that presumption predetermines and preconstructs all the traditional language of understanding relative to the spiritual divine. My divine avataric self-revelation is that the spiritual divine is prior to conditionality, prior to the body-mind self, prior to space-time located point of view, and therefore prior to any form of cosmic understanding. Therefore, a thoroughly transcendental understanding of spirituality and the divine characterizes my language of revelation. When I speak of the divine, which is reality itself, as being spiritual, I describe it as transcendental spiritual, meaning that what I am describing is a spiritual characteristic of the divine or of reality itself, prior to all cosmic definitions, or cosmically or psychophysically or conditionally based modes of understanding. Reality itself does not merely pervade cosmic space. Reality itself is the context or the perfectly subjective and intrinsically egoless self-condition within which time and space are apparent. Reality itself transcends time and space. All notions about time and space, including all the notions associated with the scientific view of the universe, and even all notions of the universe as comprising matter and energy, are point of view bound. From the space-time vantage of point of view, it seems obvious to think of any kind of event as something that is occurring within a presumed cosmic domain. From the scientific point of view in particular, any event involves change, or a passage through space and time, because that is the nature of the point of view thinking that is presupposed. For example, light coming from a star takes time to reach Earth, or to be seen from the point of view of an observer on Earth. That seems to be an obvious mode of perceptually based thinking, even a necessary mode of perceptually based thinking, from the perspective of scientific theorizing and measuring. However, reality itself is prior to and perfectly inclusive of all points of view. In reality itself, there is no time and space, and no distance between Earth and any star, however many light years away, because reality itself is always priorly and perfectly and simultaneously and non-differently coincident with every actual and otherwise possible position or point of view in time and space. Both the conditional paradigm of its science and the non-conditional paradigm of reality itself exist simultaneously. Therefore, on the one hand, to say that there is actually a passage of time or a movement in space, you have to be identified with a particular position or point of view in space-time in order to notice the passage of time or the movement in time. If, on the other hand, it is realized that there is only the self-existence of reality itself, inclusive of both places simultaneously, without taking up the position of one or the other independently, then there is no passage of time, no movement in space. The reality understanding of that which is divine is that the divine is egoless. The divine is prior to point of view. Therefore, the divine is prior to any cosmic pattern. The divine is prior to time and space without excluding any. Thus, the spiritual divine is of a transcendental nature, not of a cosmic nature. The cosmic spiritual divine is the divine understood in the language of the great tradition of humankind, or the point of view based first 6 or developmental stages of life. However, the transcendental spiritual divine is prior to all conditions and prior to all modes of understanding associated with point of view, conditionality, body, mind, self, and cosmos. The transcendental spiritual divine does not merely pervade time and space. Rather, the transcendental spiritual divine is the all-in-all transcending context of time and space, prior to ego, prior to point of view, prior to all cosmic measures, prior to anything that goes through change in time, prior to anything that moves in space, prior to all limitations. Therefore, to participate transcendentally spiritually in the divine or reality itself is not a cosmic or psychophysical activity. Psychophysical activities appear and exist in the sense of appearance from point of view. In daily life, there are various things you do, such as understanding how to practice a right diet. Right diet is a reasonable psychophysical enactment of individual responsibility. Yet, there must be an understanding of just what the limitation of point of view is that is doing something as necessary and simple as having lunch. Therefore, point of view must not be allowed to define the awareness of the divine. The divine is not a cosmic manifestation. The divine is the acausal, egoless, and pre-cosmic or acosmic transcendental spiritual self-manifestation of reality itself. In order to understand the divine or reality itself, you must transcend all notions of a conditional kind. Scientific understanding can be based on a right discipline of free inquiry, but all scientific understanding is, nevertheless, a conditional understanding. All scientific understanding is point of view based and cosmically based. Scientists make effort to correct the limitations inherent in the process of observation or point of view, and the human context of theorizing, measuring, and so forth. Such effort is necessary in order for the activity of science to be a true discipline, and such is the impulse of responsible scientists. Nevertheless, science is an activity of a conditional kind. Science is psychophysically based. Science is point of view based. The evidence of this can be noticed even in the language of science, according to which particles or whatever travel in time from one place or space to another. However, The observer must be located in some particular place or another in order to make any scientific observation. Whereas reality itself is not located in any particular place, but is the context of all places, all at once. Therefore, the spirituality of the only by me revealed and given reality way of Adidam, or Adidam Vishiradam, is not merely cosmic spirituality. The spirituality of the only by me revealed and given reality way of Adidam is not stages of life spirituality. Whereas the spirituality of the only by me revealed and given reality way of Adidam is transcendental spirituality. My divine avataric transcendental spiritual self-transmission is the self-transmission of the pre-cosmic or a cosmic and a causal divine. Therefore, my divine avataric transcendental spiritual self-transmission is the divine avataric self-revelation of the intrinsically and perfectly egoless self-nature, self-condition, and self-state of reality itself, not merely a revelation of details of cosmic or psychophysical experience. Transcendental spiritual communion with me is an event that is about the intrinsically self-evident perfect knowledge of a cosmic, a causal, egoless, and indivisible reality itself. Thus, transcendental spiritual communion with me is not merely a conditional event of psychophysical changes in the body-mind self of my devotee, nor is transcendental spiritual communion with me a matter of my devotee developing some kind of ecstatic, of esoteric understanding of how the cosmos works. Such happenings may, nevertheless, occur in the case of any devotee. All kinds of insights into the psychophysical happening of the body-mind self, or otherwise into the happening of cosmic processes, may come about in the case of any devotee. Even many and various kinds of spiritual phenomena may arise in my devotees. Nevertheless, only the transcendental spiritual self-revelation of reality itself is the fundamental process in the only by me revealed and given reality way of Adidam. The transcendental spiritual self-revelation of reality itself is a unique process. The transcendental spiritual self-revelation of reality itself is not a sixth stage process, but the seventh stage process, not exclusionary and prior to all cosmic or conditional or psychophysical points of view. My use of the words transcendental spiritual is, in and of itself, a divine avataric self-revelation about reality itself. In my language of divine avataric self-revelation, I, thus and thereby, distinguish the transcendental spirituality of the reality way of Adidam from the cosmic and psychophysically based human being of the great tradition of humankind, altogether and as it is particularly expressed in the context of the fourth and the fifth stages of life. In the fourth and the fifth stages of life, there is an esotericism based on a psychophysical design that understands both the cosmos and the human structure in a certain manner. All kinds of systematic views of esoteric anatomy have been developed in the traditions of the fourth and fifth stages of life. However, the only by me revealed and given reality way of Adidam transcends all such designs, and all the efforts or searches associated with such designs, and therefore the spirituality of the only by me revealed and given reality way of Adidam is rightly referred to as transcendental spirituality. Transcendental spirituality is a process in the context of by me transcendentally spiritually awakened practice in the first congregation of Adidam Vishiradam. Transcendental spirituality is about perfect realization or the perfect knowledge of reality itself, not merely in the philosophical sense, but as a spiritual revelation and a spiritual realization of a transcendental kind. Prior to egoity, prior to conditionality, prior to the psychophysical designs of body-mind complex, and prior to the cosmos and cosmically patterned understanding. The divine, which is reality itself and which is of a transcendental spiritual nature, does not merely pervade time and space. The divine is the very condition or context of time and space, prior to all appearances of the artifact and point of view based experiential evidence of time and space. The only by me revealed and given most perfect or seventh stage realization of reality itself is a transcendental spiritual realization that transcends all and all, without excluding anything that arises. In the seventh stage context of all and all is divinely self-recognized as reality itself, and that self-abiding divine self-recognition transcends all the conditional limitations of whatever is divinely self-recognized. Therefore, the only by me revealed and given seventh stage demonstration of the reality of Adidam is not merely about feeling and breathing the cosmic spirit. Rather, the only by me revealed and given seventh stage demonstration of the reality way of Adidam is about priorly and perfectly transcending egoity, the body-mind self, conditionality, and the cosmic appearance, not by excluding all or any of that, but by divinely self-recognizing it, and most ultimately outshining it, which is quite a different process than excluding or dissociating from it. Indeed, self-abiding self-recognition is the precise opposite of exclusion or dissociation. Divine translation, or the outshining of conditional or cosmic existence, is not about excluding the cosmic domain or the experiential and space-time point of view based body-mind. Rather, divine translation is about standing perfectly egolessly in place, without dissociation, and divinely self-recognizing all that apparently arises, such that reality itself, or that which every cosmic and psychophysical mode of appearance is divinely self-recognized to be as physical mode, of appearance. Rather, divine translation is about standing perfectly egolessly in place, without dissociation, and divinely self-recognizing all that apparently arises, such that reality itself, or that which every cosmic and or psychophysical mode of appearance is divinely self-recognized to be, is divinely self-apprehended, or divinely self-apperceived, to be the only, one and indivisible context of existence, self-bright, self-existing, egoless, non-separate, infinite, absolute, and perfectly divine. That self-bright context is the divine self-domain, which is prior to all possible conditional or cosmic modes of domain. Therefore, the only by me revealed and given seventh stage of life realization of divine translation is not a matter of being transported to some heavenly cosmic domain. Rather, the only by me revealed and given seventh stage of life realization of divine translation is a matter of the outshining of all modes of the cosmic domain, in and as the all-in-all transcending divine self-domain of conscious light itself. Part 2. Divine translation is most perfect vanishing in the indivisible non-difference of divine transcendental spiritual conscious light, or utter, ecstatic, perfectly egoless, and all-in-all difference transcending realization of the self-nature, self-condition, and self-state of the absolute divine person, who is the true and perfect and egoless and indivisible and a causal self-nature, self-condition, and self-state of all and all. Divine translation is the perfection of human existence, in which all limitations are perfectly transcended. Divine translation is not annihilation, but most perfect transcendental spiritual ecstasy in fullness. Divine translation is not self-preservation, but most perfect ecstasy in egolessness. Divine translation is paradox, prior to all differences and beyond all explanations. There is only real a causal God, the divine person, who is self-existing, transcendental egoless, self-radiant, only spiritual, and yet perfectly non-different and perfectly inclusive. There is only real a causal God, the divine person, who is self-existing, transcendental egoless, self-radiant, only spiritual, and yet perfectly non-different and perfectly inclusive of all conditionally arising phenomena. In and as that, there is all of the ecstatic prior unity and conditional manipulation and conditional multiplication of conditionally caused, conditionally arising, and conditionally apparent patterns of indivisibly non-separate forms, beings, and worlds. Da. The conditionally apparent universe is a perfect maze of causes and effects. All causation is entirely conditional, merely apparent, intrinsically non-necessary, and intrinsically non-ultimate. The universe of causes and effects cannot be finally comprehended, controlled, stopped, or destroyed by any conditional means, but it can, and indeed must, be intrinsically, always already, and perfectly transcended. All causation and all effects are intrinsically always already and perfectly transcended in, of, by, and as their causal indivisibility, or intrinsically egoless and self-evidently divine reality itself. There is only the infinite person or egoless self-nature, self-condition, and self-state of real, a causal God. Therefore, all and all of conditionally caused and conditionally arising appearances are intrinsically, always already, and perfectly transcended, and ultimately divinely and perfectly outshined in, of, by, and as the divine self-nature, self-condition, and self-state of reality itself, which is real, a causal God, and is the perfect truth. Da, da, da.